And it's Women's Month, and eNCA has been talking to women in positions of power. Today we're joined in studio by Ayanda Majola, co-founder and director at SV Capital, an investment company in Johannesburg that specializes in alternative asset-backed investments. So good to have you with us this morning, Ayanda. Thank you for waking up, and happy Women's Month to you.
Happy Women's Month to you too. Thank you so much for having me today.
You know, I was just going through your bio. I see you started off as a chartered accountant.
Yeah.
You've worked for some of the big investment banks, Deutsche Bank, Investec. What is it that made you decide to go into entrepreneurship and be co-founder of SV Capital?
Yeah, I think, you know, the journey into entrepreneurship is a difficult one because the jump in itself is very hard. Having to make that decision by yourself to say, I'm ready to actually start my own business and to actually leap into entrepreneurship, that took a lot from me. But in making the decision, I remember I had a conversation with my mom because she had recently retired. And the first question she asked me when all that money came to her was, what should I do? Where should I invest this, right? And in that, I realized that there's a big need. And that need is to create investment opportunities that are focused on women to not only provide a secure future for themselves when they retire, but to be able to leave a secure legacy for their families. And that's where I started with SV Capital, where the goal really is to democratize investments, to make them accessible and empowering for all women, and to ensure that we are creating those investment opportunities for women across the nation.
I'm just relieved that your mother asked somebody like you what to do with that money.
Yeah.
And you were not, Mom, let's go shopping, let us enjoy, let us live the good life.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at your investment strategy. I mean, you say that your approach is for assets that are easy to understand.
Correct.
So it's not investment per usual. Talk to us about some of the nuances that really differentiate you within the market.
That's correct. So SV Capital focuses on alternative investments. So we don't do the traditional stuff where it's equities and you're investing in intangible stuff and you don't see where your money's going. With us, all our investments have a physical asset behind them. And the reason why we've done that is because we realize that a lot of people want to understand where their money's going, how their return is generated, and how they get it back. Those three simple things. So in creating SV Capital, we focused on creating alternative investments for our clients and allowing our clients to participate in sectors they wouldn't necessarily have access to.
Give us some examples.
So one of our products is the cattle investment. Now, the cattle investment gives investors the ability to participate in the agricultural sector. Now, you may be sitting here and saying, how is that possible? So what we do is we pool resources from various investors and we use those funds to invest in a herd of cattle. What we found is that investors really like that investment product because it ties back to cattle, which has a value to this day for African people. To this day, lobola negotiations are negotiated with cattle.
No cattle, no lobola.
Exactly, and a man's wealth is deemed by his cattle. So we found that we need to focus on African investments that really have a true meaning of what value is.
You spoke about the importance of women being involved in their own economic future. Talk to us about the work that you do on that front and some of the challenges that you've experienced women going through when it comes to building wealth for themselves and having that nest egg.
Yeah, so, you know, it's a very difficult subject to go on because women historically have always been underrepresented in the financial sector. And when looking at investment opportunities for women specifically, it's very interesting because they have limited opportunities to participate in the investment world. When looking at statistics, 70% of women are actually actively managing their household finances. But shockingly, only 30% are involved in long-term investment decision-making. That stat in itself is very shocking. Further to that, we found that 25% of women actually hold investment products versus a whopping 40% of men that hold investment products. So those stats tell us that there is a core problem, that women are really not participating in the investment world, but they also underscore the importance of us focusing on creating awareness and education around investment products that are specifically catered for women, but also giving them the opportunity to participate.
And what type of entry points are we speaking about here? What type of capital does one actually need to have to start? Because somebody might be listening to this and saying, I'm a woman, I want to get involved in investments. but there's an understanding or at least a belief that you need to have, chunk loads of money in order to start.
So that's the biggest misconception out there, that you need a large sum of money to start investing, and that's not the case, right? With SV Capital, you can start from as little as 500 Rand to start investing. And we've intentionally done that to put all our minimums very low, to make our investments very inclusive and affordable to everyone and anyone. So when you start investing with 500 Rand, we look to create an environment where you don't need a large sum to start, but it's rather creating a culture of continuously investing into the future.
And I guess it's that consistency as well.
Correct.
What is your message to women this Women's Month?
My message to women this Women's Month is for us to break the barriers. So it's time for us to break barriers and for us to take our power back and focus on creating investments that are for women, but also ensuring that we focus on our financial independence and we look to create a financial legacy with our children. As women, we are very powerful. We are the backbone of our households. And if we're not participating in the investment world and we're not making the financial decisions, we are only hurting ourselves and hurting our future. So the time is now to start, and you don't need a lot of money to start. You can start from as little as 500 Rand.
The time is now to start. Thank you so much, Ayanda, for joining us this morning on the South African Morning. That's Ayanda Majola, co-founder of SV Capital. We'll be back in just a moment as we bring you the headlines of the leading